The first of the 10 brain games that narcissists will play with you is what we call the confidence game. 10 brain games, we could call them mind games, that they're trying to manipulate you by getting inside your head. Well, what about this confidence game? The very first thing a narcissist will do, and if you know anything about narcissism, you understand this all too well, and that is they got to win your confidence by what most people call love bombing, or what I prefer to call something more akin to grooming. They win your confidence, they win your friendship, they win your love, they win your trust. So you trust this person as much as you trust anybody. Now, you may think, okay, am I really that gullible? Well, it's not that you're so gullible as it is that the narcissist is that gifted at manipulating people. Yeah, it helps if you're gullible from the narcissist perspective, but they will go after just about anybody, but they particularly target those of us who are empaths or who have Asperger's syndrome, because we just tend to be so empathetic, and we're open, and we like to help people, and they see that, they understand it, and they take advantage of it. So the first mind game they play is the confidence game. The second mind game they play, or the brain game they play, is take the reins game. What the narcissist wants to do is he wants to control everything about you, and really, he wants to control everything about himself, because narcissist, or herself, because narcissist, the whole thing is about themselves. They tend to have very low self-esteem, and so they try to mask that self-esteem by pretending and putting on to be somebody that they are not. They want to see themselves as somebody who can control themselves by controlling others. And certainly, if they can control other people, then they can control themselves. That seems to be the underlying thought pattern that narcissists have inside their head. So expect them to try to take over every aspect of your life eventually, but not at the beginning. That's just a time to win confidence. The third brain game they play is what I call the intimidation game. They use intimidation because they want you to fear the consequences if you do not allow them to control you. I have had narcissists, for example, come to me and say something to the effect that they knew somebody that I knew, and they just kind of left it hang there, because they wanted to implant that thought in my mind that if I didn't comply with whatever it is they wanted me to do, that they would contact this other person and give them a bad report about me. And that, by the way, is something else narcissists love to do. We'll dig into that a little bit later, but they love to give bad reports. I think maybe a better term for that is just flat out gossip. You know, the smear campaign, they love to talk to other people about you. And notice, if you will, kind of a red flag, they also like to talk to you about others. And whatever they're saying about other people to you, that's what they're going to say to others about you. So it works both ways. But these people, narcissists, imagine themselves as being very smart, as being very savvy, and they think that they are outsmarting people because they deceive people. And the truth of the matter is, anybody can be deceptive, but they see that other people aren't being deceptive, so they presume that others can't be deceptive, but they can be. Therefore, they're superior. They're a little bit better than everybody else, a little bit better than you, and then if you don't catch on what they're doing, that just confirms what they believe about themselves to be superior. So the fourth brain game they play is what we call the bond-breaking game. And that is, they love to break bonds that you have between yourself and other people. You have friends, you have family members, you have people who trust you, people from your past who knew you, and they would give a glowing report about you until they hear from the narcissist. And the narcissist will tell them all kinds of things about you. Why are they doing this? Because they want to break down, through breaking bonds, your network of friends. They want to have you for themselves. They want to control you. Now, even after they discard you, they still want you to be under their control. Nobody else can have any influence on your life whatsoever. And again, they think that's very savvy. They think that's a smart thing to do. What they're really doing is satisfying their own need, their own desire for control. Because again, these are people with very low self-esteem, and by controlling others, it gives them that facade of self-esteem that really isn't there. But to them, that's good enough because that's as close as they're ever going to get. The fifth game that narcissists love to play is what we call the Shortcoming Game. And what they do is they will invent non-existent shortcomings in your life or in your behavior. Or maybe they will take something that is less than perfect in your life and they will exaggerate it. Those real shortcomings, they will embellish them and make them seem much worse than they really are. What do they do with that? Well, they take that information or that false information and they take it through their smear campaign to other people, part of the bond-breaking scheme. So they have this shortcoming game that they play. That they present you as somebody who just isn't all there. Now you may be thinking, Ken, doesn't that sound a little bit like gaslighting? Yeah, that's what that is. It's gaslighting. So they're not only trying to convince other people that you are somehow flawed, and they, of course, are superior in all of their ways, but they're trying to convince you that you are flawed and that they are superior in all of their ways to you and to everybody else. That's the mind game, the brain game that they play, but it's ineffective if you don't let them inside your head. If you understand what these people are up to, what the narcissist is up to, and just don't play the game. The only way not to play the game, by the way, is to get as far away from them as they possibly can. Now, there's another brain game they play. This is number 6. They like to play what I call the flipping game. Narcissists victimize you, and then they present themselves as the hero. So there's really 3 parts to this game, or 3 players in this game. There's you, who is the person who's being abused. We'll call you the victim, and then there is the abuser, which is the narcissist, and then there is the hero who saves the narcissist from you. Guess who the hero is? It's the narcissist. So there are 3 players or 3 roles in this game, and the narcissist plays 2 of those 3 games. He plays the role of the abused, of the victim, and secondly, he plays the role of the hero, who saves himself from the third person, the third player, third role. That's you. You are the victimizer. You are the bad guy. He gets inside your head and the heads of others, and he often is inexplicably successful at pulling this off. Narcissists tend to be very good at it. Now, some are better than others, but those narcissists that I have dealt with, I found that, they're very good at this. And I think there's a reason for that. It's because people are, I hate to say they're gullible, but, the adage, faith comes by hearing. We tend to believe what we hear. We believe all kinds of things. Somebody says something, if they say it with any semblance of credibility, we tend to buy right into it. We buy it. Now, if it's a sharkster, a salesman, and they come on like that, then, okay, that's a red flag immediately. But that's not how the narcissist presents himself. He presents himself not only to you, but all of your friends and everybody he meets as a credible individual. Just a nice guy. First of all, a friend, not a salesman, not a huckster, not a grifter, but he presents himself as a buddy, a friend, a confidant. And he makes sure that he matures that perception of himself before ever he digs deep into deceiving people with his schemes. That's the first deception. Then he goes after the goods. Why does he do this, or she do this? Why do narcissists do this? Well, again, it's because they have a dependency on satisfying a deflated ego, and they're trying to build their ego and to develop that sense of self-esteem and importance by hurting other people. And I've known some narcissists, this is their life. This is what they do always. I mean, it seems like every waking moment of every day, maybe in their sleep too, I don't know. They're busy getting inside people's heads, trying to cause as much damage as they can. There doesn't seem to be a whole lot more to it. Now, we're talking about covert narcissists, by the way. So they play this flipping game where they are the good guy and you are the bad guy. The exact opposite of reality. Number 7 is they like to play the belittlement game. And in the belittlement game, if you've ever been around a narcissist, you will find typically, though not always, they will ridicule you or somehow put you down. They will find some way, somehow, to belittle you, to make you look incompetent, or to make you the brunt of the joke, or maybe even the joke itself. They love to do this. Now, keep in mind that while they're doing this to you, maybe out of your sight, but they are doing this to other people. You are not the only victim of a narcissist. Typically, the victim has many, many victims online. And if you check this person's history, their background, you will find that he or she has done this to a lot of people. It's not just you. So they play the belittlement game. Now, what happens when you catch on to a narcissist? Well, that's when they change their strategy, and then they begin playing what I call the discard game. They've gotten everything out of you they possibly can, and they know that because you're on to them. You finally figured out this dear beloved friend of mine, not my friend at all, this person that I had imminent trust in, now I have zero trust in him. In fact, everything he or she says, I can't rely on. I can't depend on it. Everything they do, I can't depend on these people at all. In fact, the only thing you can depend on them is to be undependable. And they realize that you're onto them. What's more, as you begin to build barriers, you begin to build boundaries. You don't let this person get close to you. You're not going to let them scam you anymore. So now, okay, they're done with you. They discard you. How does a narcissist or a psychopath discard somebody after they're done with their games? Actually, they're not done with their games, but when they can't exploit them the same manner anymore. Well, think of a tissue paper. You're done with the tissue paper. It served its purpose. Throw it away. That's what discarding is all about. And all this time, you thought you were an integral, important part of this person's life. No, you weren't. They just fooled you. The fact of the matter is, you're no more valuable to them than a tissue paper. Now, think about the last tissue paper that you ever discarded. Now, if you're like most people, you can't even think of it. You know that you used tissue paper in the past, but you don't really care what happened to it. I mean, what did happen to it? Get thrown in the trash, taken to the dump, maybe burned somewhere? You don't know. That's the same attitude that narcissists have toward their victims. They don't care what happens to them. They're just tissue paper to be used for the moment. Once the use is completed, they don't even give it any thought. There's no empathy there whatsoever. They just do not care. That's what makes them a narcissist, because they are almost exclusively self-absorbed. The 9th game they play is what is called Duper's Delight. Now, once they dupe somebody, they take great joy in letting the victim know that I pulled one over on you. And there's different ways they do this, but often it's just a smirk. Now, this is after they've been found out. Typically, this is after or just as they're about to discard you. Then you will see that horrible smirk on their face. And I knew one narcissist, and the way he displayed Duper's delight is he would parade back and forth in front of his victims. If he would ever see somebody that he had duped out and about at a restaurant, maybe at a grocery store, whatever, and I've seen the guy do this a couple times. I recall he had scammed some worker at a McDonald's, young woman, and he loved to go into that McDonald's and just parade back and forth in front of her. Just the most bizarre thing I'd ever seen in my life. But that was Duper's delight. He took great joy in knowing that he got away with this. Now, it's almost like It's very reminiscent of serial killers who take delight in killing people. The only difference is they kill your reputation, or they try to. And once they've succeeded to a degree, they come back to the side of the crime and they enjoy themselves even more. Duper's delight. Usually it's a smirk. Sometimes it's something else. In the case of this one guy, he was parading back and forth. In front of the victim, number 10, is this, what we call the Postgame game. This is the post-brain game, brain game. Now, we say that because, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, that narcissists never ever get to a point where they stop playing the game with you. Now, it's kind of like a cat playing with a mouse, you obviously being the mouse. Well, as long as the mouse is alive, he'll play with the mouse. Now, the narcissist will go on, the cat will go on to another mouse because the other mouse is more lively. Now, you've caught on to him. So you're not playing this game anymore. And he understands that. But he still, or she, still likes to manipulate you, still likes to pull your strings from afar. How do they do that? Well, again, as we talked about before, it is through the smear campaign. They are constantly talking about you. Somebody will come up to them and they'll say, "Whatever happened to," and then mention your name. They'll get an earful. They will explain how they were brutally abused by you, how you were so mean and how you were so hateful, how you took advantage of their trust. They will describe you. Remember the flipping game? They will describe you in terms of who they are. And they will describe themselves in terms of who you are, the victim. So this never stops. I mean, it could be 5-10 years after the discard, after you have caught on to them. Now, how long does the game go? Well, how long does a rumor live? How long does gossip survive? Could be 100 years after both of you are dead and gone. Those stories, those lies, the deceit, it's still there. Still there. And in this age of social media, it's more likely to persist much longer than it would have otherwise. You see on your screen those two rectangles. We've got more to go, a whole lot more to talk about. We make a lot of videos on narcissism. So click on one of those rectangles and, hey, let's keep this thing going.